So today we are heading to Noss, which is a national nature reserve that sits off the east coast of Bresa on Shetland's North Sea coast, so it's off the east side of Shetland. It's only accessible in the summer months, and I've done a previous video which looks at a boat trip around the island of Noss. So this time we are hiking. Noss is famed for its spectacular scenery, its sheer cliffs, seabirds and the striking landscape. So it's really a must-see for anybody that has a passion for hiking and wildlife. The name Noss comes from the Old Norse language and it literally means nose. The Norse settlers that arrived here from the 9th century would likely have called it Nossi, the island shaped like a nose, with the AY on the end of an island name indicating that it is in fact an island. So today the island is uninhabited except for seasonal wardens that are there throughout the summer months, and they operate the boat that will take you into the island. But the island itself is most famous for its 180-metre sandstone cliffs that are teeming with thousands of seabirds, including the impressive gannet and puffin colonies. So to get to Noss, you first have to take the ferry from Lerwick over to Bresa. That ferry leaves every hour, and then you have to cross the kind of width of Bresa to the east side of the island to arrive at Noss soon. So that's 4 miles or 6 kilometres from the Bresa ferry. So it's probably advisable that you bring a vehicle or a bike, but definitely a car would be the easiest, and there is parking at the Noss Sound side. So in order to get across, wardens operate a rib, so that's a rigid inflatable boat, and it's just a 3-minute ferry crossing across the narrow channel between Bresa and Noss, and it runs every day except Monday and Thursday from early May until the end of August, very much dependent on the weather, and the first crossing is at 10 o'clock in the morning and the last ferry out of Noss is at 5 o'clock. So you pay when you get over to the island, and a return fare is £5 for adults, £3 for children, and under 5s go free. So when you arrive, if there's a red flag flying from the warden's house in Noss, then that means that weather does not permit crossings. There's no booking system, you just turn up and the warden will come and get you. But you can get information by phoning their information line, which is updated every day to say whether or no they anticipate the ferry is going to be running, and I will leave that number on the video here. So the trip to Noss begins with the briefing, which is held in the small visitor centre. There's also displays and information about the island, and this is where you will make your payment to the warden, and they'll tell you about the kind of access path around the island. It is a nature reserve, so you do have to listen carefully and you do have to stick to the prescribed paths. That's both for your safety and for the safety of the wildlife. So one thing that you should note if you are planning to visit Noss is that no dogs are allowed on the island due to it being a nature reserve, and obviously there's no wheelchair access just onto the nature of the ferry and island terrain. But when you get to Noss, there's a designated path which leads around to the Noss, which is the highest point, the high cliffs where you'll find the seabird colonies. So that's the gannets and of course the puffins that sit at the top of the cliffs. They nest in burrows, so the puffins are best seen if you do the island trip rather than the boat trip. And along the way you'll see harbour sails and grey sails. So for the visitor centre, it's about 3 miles out to the Noss. So this area here on the right is kind of separate from the main island of Nos. It's called the Cradle of Nos, where in the past they rigged up a kind of pulley system with ropes over, and they would go across on that in that kind of cart and collect seabirds' eggs.
See the puffin?
Does that sound like a puffin?
The Newp of Nos really is incredible. It's towering sandstone cliffs which create almost like a honeycomb in the rocks, and that gives the ideal nesting ground for the gannets, which are the largest seabird, and then of course the soil at the top is ideal for the puffins. So just stay here and have a moment.
See the gannets, Lena? See them?
And just like that, we had to turn back. In total, I think it ended up being like 5.5 miles that we did. But yeah, it's a fantastic island to visit. So the building that we're looking at just up to the left there is the warden's house. So that's where the 2 wardens live throughout the summer months. And at the kind of far end of the water is Bresa, so you can see how close Nos sits to the island there. In terms of what I would prefer, doing the boat trip or the island walk, it's a really difficult one. It's a really difficult one, and it totally depends on what you enjoy doing. I think for me, I actually prefer the boat trip, and the reason I prefer the boat trip is because there's something incredible about being underneath the cliffs looking right up at them. On the boat trip you don't get the same opportunity to see the puffins, but that said, I feel that there's probably better places in Shetland to enjoy the puffins too. So if I was really looking to see puffins, I would be looking to go to Head for accessibility, because you've got zero walking. So if anybody in your party has got mobility issues, then Head would be the place to see puffins. And if you want like the best puffin experience that's kind of easy enough to get to, I would say Hermaness up in Unst is amazing, and that walk is just so rewarding. And for the best puffins I have ever seen in Shetland, that would be in Ferry. So all in all, Nos was fantastic. So hopefully having this video and being able to see the terrain and just see the walk and what have you, then that's been useful, and that'll allow you to be able to make your own decisions. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and we certainly enjoyed the sunshine when we went. I should say we went in to Nos in July, so we visited in July when the puffins were there. So they're kind of there mid-April to mid-August.